Do you support this war in Iran?
I will see how it goes. Again, once we're in it, I'm here to see it through to the end, and I'm hoping for the best outcome for America.
Are you cheering for the U.S. to win or lose the war?
Yeah, I live in the practical reality. I'm sorry.
Seems like separation of powers only matters when it's convenient. Yeah, I do call it unprincipled. We don't live in the counterfactual where the Iran war didn't happen. The Iran war is happening, and COVID is happening, and for whatever reason, I think that we try to attribute
COVID is
Trump.
happening? Calm down there, Taylor Lorenz.
COVID did happen. COVID did happen under Trump, and we have to consider those and the relative responses to those crises when we're assessing how good they're doing on prices. And so when it comes to the Iran war, yeah, you have to include that in your calculations. And it's not just about fuel. It's about prices overall. And like I said, core inflation rose. That's excluding variable prices on like food and energy. So it's not just an issue of fuel. Overall, prices are going up,
but do you acknowledge
close to coming down?
Pisco, do you acknowledge though that if he reaches a deal next month and the price of gas goes back down, then 6-9 months out, it's not probably going to be just a perennial issue with the Trump administration?
I'm not so sure about that. So I think that the price on fuel, there are like lagging indicators in terms of the overall Strait of Hormuz picture. Iran is going to exercise sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. That's going to have an effect on prices because Iran's going to be taking a cut in the near future. So I don't know how that it's just so easy that we can get out of it. And to the extent that there's any escalation, which it seems like there's a decent chance there might be because they're at loggerheads on the major components here. I don't know that there's not going to be another attack on a major facility in the in the Arab states. So I'm not so sure that this is
Sean, I do get your point that prior to the Iran war, gas prices were low, but then Trump decided to do the Iran war, so he can't really you can't really just let him off the hook for it.
Well, first of all, I mean, again, Pisco gave me a 2-year timeline, so we have to wait another year for me to give the mea culpa if we're in this situation, number one. Number two, yes, he did launch the Iran war, and if it continues at its current pace, which, by the way, the ceasefire, the little stalemate that we're at right now, is actually worse than continuing the bombing because at least that pressure's closer to a resolution in one way or another, and this delay that Trump thinks is beneficial for the economy is actually dragging inflation. But yeah, inflation is a consequence of the fuel inflation. And you can look at the chart that you sent us in the pre-production email where the inflation passes the wage growth in the last couple of months due to the fact that fuel impacts every other price. I mean, technically everything impacts everything. That's how pricing works in an actual market economy. So yeah, he will suffer the consequences of this if he doesn't get a resolution for this. And by the way, he's suffering the consequences of not explaining the position on this in a good way. Like you have Marco Rubio explaining a conventional weapons shield that was going to help them build nuclear weapons, but they don't make that case consistently. And I will point out that if they would point out that Iran has 60% enriched uranium, no country on earth but Iran has enriched uranium at that level without developing a nuclear bomb. And every problem that we could be facing in the Strait of Hormuz with Iran asserting sovereignty, which is illegal, by the way, it's an international waterway, which is them trying to assert sovereignty over this, could be worse if they did so with the nuclear weapon in the future. But the Trump administration isn't making that case, and they deserve political fallout from it. And yes, if this continues, inflation's going to get worse. The last major Iran-related fuel crisis that led to inflation was in the 70s, and Trump's second term could be like Jimmy Carter's. That's how it could be regarded if he doesn't get a handle over this. So yeah, absolutely, he is responsible for this 100%. I do want to point out that I did predict good energy policy that just led to a decrease in gas before this, and we'll see how it goes. It's been, 60-something days, something like that? We'll see how the resolution goes. Trump's the greatest deal maker ever. I don't know if you know that, Pisco.
No, I don't agree with that, but 2 quick points here. Okay, let's say that inflation gets back to 2% or whatever, like the target here. They're not coming down, right? So the promise that prices we're going to have deflation, I think the time is now to admit that was a lie, and that's not going to happen. First of all,
I said that in the clip right there that you're not going to see broad prices going down. I said you're going to probably see energy come down, and yeah, that will lead to some things coming down, but in the normal way that certain things become cheaper in the economy, not in eggs are gonna eggs,
which is they only increase by 2%, right?
The way they get slowly or slower than wage increases. You know what I mean?
And the second thing, I thought I heard it. Do you support this war in Iran?
I will see how it goes.
I don't. I mean, you're like sort of getting yourself out
Like,
of
so-
coming to a hard decision on Iran
No,
war
so,
because
like-
you want to see how it goes and read the room.
No, I what you call it. So once it's launched, I want the United States of America to win. Like, I know it's like trendy online, even in the right, to be like, Iran deserves to beat the evil Epstein empire or whatever stupid ass crap people are spouting about. But would I have launched it with the information available at the time? Well, they didn't give us a lot of the information at the time. So probably not. And I wouldn't have supported it at launch. But once we're in it, I'm trying to win it. Like, that's my position on any of these conflicts.
Even if you felt it was illegal. So even if you felt that he doesn't have the authority to do that?
Once we're in, well, first of all, nobody declares war anymore. So yeah, in that regard, I actually hate the actual launch of these attacks because we don't ever follow the proper congressional procedures. But like, again, once we're in it, I'm here to see it through to the end, and I'm hoping for the best outcome for America.
That sounds like you support it. That sounds like you want America to go in all out, and you don't really care that it's illegal just because everyone has done it in a legal fashion. And so why should I listen to you on like norms when it comes to, race to the bottom and anything else? If you're like, I don't care, we violate the Constitution.
Well, this is a norm.
No,
like we just bomb
surely
countries
following
on
the
presidential orders.
Surely following the Constitution is more important than norms that are legal to violate.
Yes, I would love for us to go back to congressional war powers, but like that's not where we've been in the United States of America for a while. And to such an extent that this is quite literally the norm now. Like they just decide to bomb a country and like it is what it is.
So I'm a fascist because I want to increase the Supreme Court, the size of it in response in a retaliatory fashion. And well, sorry, that was, to be fair to you, Brad, in the intro clip said something like, are you allowed to be a fascist in response to fascism or something like that? But so I'm someone who is like fundamentally against the rule of law. It's another term of Brad, because I
with love,
advocating for something that's allowed under the Constitution, allowed under the rules, and it's in retaliation of another norm violation. But you're not against the rule of law when you're conceitedly supporting an action that is against the Constitution.
No, because, well, first of all, you're actually separating out the Constitution and norms. The norms are so different from the Constitution in this arena. Presidential power to move and utilize military assets has
Which is
grown
more important, the
over time.
norms or the Constitution?
So I ideally want the Constitution to be more important. I would love for every president to be restrained. But the idea that, like, I'm going to look at this right now, we're already in it, and I don't want the U.S. to get the best possible outcome because Congress didn't declare this war in the way that they should. And again, in an abstract, intellectual way, I would agree with you, but like we're in it right now, and I want America to get the best outcome.
Pisco,
like the practical side of
Obama,
me.
Was Obama fundamentally at odds with the rule of law then?
Yes. When he intervened with respect to Libya, that was against the Constitution.
That's what I'm referring to,
100%. No, I grant that, and that is just clear and evident on an originalist interpretation of what the Constitution means. But the problem here is everyone's an originalist now, Brad. Everyone's an originalist now. But just to make it clear for people, it's more important to follow the Constitution. So I don't want to hear about rule of law and some kind of like, I don't know, hand-wringing about the judiciary when Sean is conceitedly in favor of an action which he concedes violates the Constitution. Which is worse?
Well, wait, Pisco, are you so from Sean's framework, are you cheering for the U.S. to win or lose the war?
So I always want U.S. to win, but I thought he said that he wants the war to continue.
Sean?
No, well, I mean, I prefer for an end, but an end that's positive for the United States of America. Like once we're in it, I want the best possible.
But the war needs to stop.
I want the best. Once we're in it, I want the best possible outcome. And right now, if stopping this, like right in this moment, leaves us in a terrible position with the Iranians controlling the strait, no, I'm not in favor of stopping it on a practical
if the Constitution,
level. Constitutionally, I agree with you. They should have declared it and all of that. But like in the Libya situation, when Obama started like the no-fly zone in Libya, which by the way is less extreme compared to what we're dealing with right here, that was unconstitutional, but like once you're doing it, you root for the best possible outcome because in the practical reality of this country going back decades, we don't declare war. We haven't declared a war since World War II.
Or statutory authorization. I'm not saying that needs to be a formal declaration of war. It needs to be Congress who does the action here. But the key point here is you're in favor of continuing an action for practical purposes that you know to violate the Constitution. In other words, continuing the war is a constitutional violation. It offends the separation of powers. And that's basically what's happening here. So you're crying about the judiciary, the powers of the judiciary being ripped to them for things that the legislature is allowed to do. But you're ripping power from Congress, and you're okay with it because of the practical consequences.
Okay, let Sean respond.
The Congress should authorize it or not authorize it. I do agree with that. But again, you're trying to pretend in that context of Virginia, where they're clearly violating a norm in Virginia by getting rid of all their Supreme Court justices over a ruling they didn't like, is equivalent
they would be.
to what has
They're not actually.
They would be. They're not
if they did it, obviously. But like to something that is quite literally standard fare for decades in this country, which is presidential war-making power, which again, the Congress, I'm original intent guy. Everybody's on that bandwagon. I agree. 2/3 majority of both houses to declare war. That's where I'm at ideally. But once we're in it, yeah, I live in the practical reality. I'm sorry.
Seems like separation of powers only matters when it's convenient. Yeah, I do call it unprincipled. I think that if you're here advocating, I concede that it's a norm violation in the context of the Virginia
It's not a norm
situation.
violation. Oh, in the Virginia, yeah.
Yes,
and
I agree that it's not a norm violation when it comes to the presidency, but which one's more important, right? Which one's more important, the norm violation or the constitutional violation? And in the case of Virginia, you're more worried about the norm violation than the constitutional violation. That's reverse.
Yeah, you're trying to conflate two different things, and I'm just existing in the practical reality when it comes to the federal government. Again, if we actually got to a point where war-making power was constitutionally restored, even if it's in this conflict, I would think that would be better long-term overall for the United States of America. But right now, we're already in this situation. It's already raining, and you're like, oh, well, where's your umbrella? You're not concerned about the umbrella? It's like, yeah, not right now at this moment. Yes,
all
true.
Right, guys,
factual.
Guys, nope. We're going to leave it there. I appreciate both of you. I appreciate the fiery debate, keeping it civil, but keeping it constructive. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Be sure to check out both Pisco and Sean's channels. Both will be linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for making the time and for the spirited debate.